All right, it's 7 o'clock. Let's go ahead and find some seats. Okay, we're going to begin with an invocation by Reverend Andrew Singh.
Please join me in prayer. Precious Lord, we come humbly in your presence to thank you for this day. Thank you for your presence in this room. And Lord, I pray a special prayer over all our city officials, our mayor, and all those who are elected to serve our community. Lord, I pray that you will grant them wisdom and the grace to serve with humility, with passion, and with boldness. Lord, I also take a moment to pray for all our police officers, all those who serve in the fire department, all those who serve in our community. God, I pray that you will be with them, that you will protect them, and Lord, that you will be with them and also their families. Lord, I pray that you will bless them. And now, Lord, I take a moment to pray for our community, that those that are hungry will find food, those that are discouraged, O Lord, will find comfort, those that are facing addictions and different kinds of challenges in their lives. Lord, I pray that your presence will be upon them. Lord, use us all to be a source of encouragement and blessing. Lord, bless this meeting, and may your Spirit guide everything. And we ask this all in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Okay, I now call the February 5th, 2019 regular meeting of the City Council to order. Please rise to pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'll ask Mrs. Hoffman to take roll call, please.
Mr. Burke? Mr. Cahill?
Here.
Ms. Kyle?
Here.
Mr. Skidmore?
Here.
Ms. Sudkamp? Ms. Cahill?
Here.
Mr. Meyer?
Here.
Ms. Skidmore?
Here.
Ms. Pitts?
Here.
Mr. Nicely? Ms. Reckers?
Here.
Mr. Hermes?
Here.
Thank you, Sherry. You've received a copy of the minutes for the January 15th, 2019 regular council meeting and the January 22nd, 2019 special council meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to be made at this time? Great.
Just on the special meeting, it just had a name that was wrong. It had Jessica Reckers instead of Rebecca Reckers.
Okay. Any other corrections or additions? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion that we adopt as presented. Mrs. Kyle, do I have a second? And Mr. Cahill. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, you've received a copy of the agenda for the February 5th, 2019 regular council meeting. Are there any additions to be made at this time?
Mayor, I'd like to ask that we take the ordinance that we have on for the first reading today, hold that over so that we can have a discussion at the February 19th committee meeting, and then decide whether council wants to proceed with it from that point on.
Any other additions or changes to be made?
Yeah, I move that we table or hold the ordinance that's on legislation for first reading tonight so that we can have a committee meeting on February 19th to discuss whether we want to move that forward.
Okay, so that's a motion and then a,
Just to add, we wanted to separate them too, and I second the motion.
okay, all right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, next is our business spotlight. Robbie from Quinn Electric is here to talk about his company. Please come to the podium.
Good evening. I've been put up here to do this to kind of speak about Quinn Electric. So for anybody who doesn't know, we're located on 28 Kenton Lands Road in Erlanger, Kentucky. We've been in business now for about 24 years. We're heading into our 25th year. It was started by two brothers, my dad, Mike Quinn, and my uncle, Terry Quinn. Started in 1994. They started in the garage of Michael's house. That's where the office was. And our warehouse was in the garage of my Uncle Terry's house in his basement. So we kind of started there with just those two guys. We were doing single-family homes, wiring them for like Pee Wee Reese. Back then, they were little bi-levels, and that's how we kind of started. We kind of merged out from there. We moved to 516 Enterprise Drive in 1996 with 4 employees. And then we moved to 28 Kenton Lands in 2000 with about 10 employees. Our main focus is new construction, residential, commercial, light industrial, remodeling, and we do some smart home stuff. So we do like powered shades and smart home technologies and things of that sort. Right now, we work for about 37 different builders in the tri-state area. We did 700 homes last year, and that's in the whole tri-state area. And right now, we're running about 65 employees. So I feel like it's pretty good in 25 years to go from 2 employees to 25. We work for the Drees Company. We do everything in Kentucky that you see that's built by Drees. Every home that's wired is wired by us in Kentucky. We work for Fisher Homes, Celestial Homes, and we have some big custom builders, Classic Living Homes, Hensley Custom Homes, Justin Doyle Homes. They did like Homerama in Cincinnati this year. We did that home. So we're here in Erlanger for anything you guys might need. We appreciate you having us out tonight. And Michael and Terry are too big of wimps to come, so I had to. So that's all I kind of have, but that's anybody have any questions for me before I step down? Awesome. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks so much for being here, and thanks for calling Erlanger your home. All right, so next we have the presentation of the STAND essay winners. So if Joel Shepard can report to the podium.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the council. As you know, last September, we began teaching the STAND program, and it is a program dedicated to educating our students about the dangers of the drugs we see here in our community. And these drugs include heroin, fentanyl, marijuana, crystal methamphetamine, and prescription drug abuse. Each student to graduate from this program writes a letter to a resident of a drug treatment facility. These anonymous letters are letters of encouragement, hope, and an appeal to keep fighting their personal addictions. Before the letters are sent out, we have a contest in each class with a first place and a second place being awarded. And then the 2 first place winners from those classes compete against each other for the school champion. Tonight, we have here with us the Miles and Lindemann essay champions to read their essays to you. So we'd like to start off with Mr. Aiden Miller. Brought the swag. Good job.
Dear resident, you are so smart because you went and got help with your addiction. The best way to predict the future is to create it, so start creating the future. I'm writing this to you because every Thursday, Officer Shepard comes into our 5th grade classroom and teaches us this thing called STAND. STAND teaches us about drugs and that we need to stay away from drugs. Officer Shepard taught us about fentanyl. Fentanyl is so bad that if you take it once, it will for sure kill you. Fentanyl will smoke into your skin and you will overdose within minutes, even seconds. Also, fentanyl is a bright white powder that is sometimes mixed with heroin, marijuana, and other drugs. Ways you can resist drugs is by using the stay away. So if there are people at a park or an alley that are doing drugs, just stay away. That is the best thing you can do. Also, if you have a friend or a family member, you can use Plan B. So in case they want to use drugs, you can have a backup plan that will get you and that person away from the drug. Your future will be so good when you are clean. You'll have money, you'll have a great life, and you'll never regret it. P.S. You got this from a caring student.
Our essay champion from Lindeman Elementary, Mrs. Lacey Kelly. Nice and loud into there, Lacey.
Dear resident, did you know that now some drugs can make you go so low that your heart will stop beating? Since the second week of school, 5th grade classes have been learning to take a stand from drug and alcohol as well as the harmful effects. I am elated that you have chosen to take a stand at the GLC to help make the world a better place. 2 of the most illegal and harmful drugs I learned about was heroin and fentanyl. Heroin is a drug that people shoot up their veins with a syringe, also is 50 times more powerful than morphine. Your heart can get really low, causing your heart to stop beating. Fentanyl is so dangerous that it soaks into your skin. People who don't want to get caught, they throw burnt spoons and foil out to the public, which is what they use to make it. If a kid touches it, they can die within minutes, maybe even seconds. Both can be mixed into weed or marijuana and do not know it. That will cause illness, death, and even rotten teeth. You can take a stand against heroin and fentanyl. Another harmful drug I learned about was methamphetamine, and Stand Officer Shepard told us what disgusting chemicals it was made of, like kitty litter, ammonia, Clorox, toilet cleaner, and even lithium found in batteries. You can take this drug by smoking it. It's also called crystal meth. This is a very addictive drug. That's right, people can get addicted to chemicals. This can cause your house to explode. Police and other people also call this a meth lab. This drug is such a horrible thing that it causes heart attacks. Your body will reject this poison or drug by coming out of your pores and you puke it up. I believe your friends and family will be delighted, as well as me, if you take a stand against methamphetamine. I know you can go home soon if you take a stand and use these strategies I learned from Stand. It can be hard, but you can change your friends and don't let them do drugs, or change your friends and get a new group. You will be stronger together if you do so. Next, make a dream to see your kids, to see your good friends, or your whole family. Then, if one of your friends or even a stranger tries to get you to do drugs or drink, say, "I don't do drugs." Walk away or use the code word. This is if you're at your friend's house. Have a planned text message ready, like, "I'm going to get sick," or if you have your own car, then drive away and don't look back. Now that you know the harmful effects of drugs and alcohol, take a stand. Know that you can live your best new life by taking a stand. Take one. I believe in you. You can meet your goal by doing these strategies. I believe in you. Sincerely, Lacey Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, and a special thank you to Chief Brindle for his support and encouragement as we created this program. Thank you.
I just want to give a big shout out to Officer Shepard. You are absolutely amazing with these children. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Okay, now I'd like to introduce Mr. Mike Dew and Daryl Jewett, and they will be announcing the winners of the Kenton County Library Writing Competition.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. I'm Mike Dew. This is Daryl. I think a lot of you already know him. He's around here a lot. And for that reason, he didn't want to talk. He told me I had to do it. And I'll try to keep my remarks to under an hour. Okay? So anyway, just a joke. What is this writing contest? Let me just say a word about that real quick. Daryl and I are local authors. And we have discovered that it's easier now than ever before to be able to take your creative works and get them published at very little cost to yourself. It used to be generations ago, gosh, it was a dream to become a published author. It was very difficult to do. You had to put a lot of money up front and get that to happen. And so we kind of thought, hey, let's try to get some kids in on that. Why do you have to be an adult to do that? It's the same website, createspace.com is where we went and published our books. Daryl and I'd also want to mention, we also have another of our team who were judges in the contest, Angel Musk. Why don't you stand up there, Angel? She is also a local author and joined Daryl and I for the judging duties in this contest. But we've actually written a little bit about the area that we've grown up in here. We love where we grew up. Daryl's a Cherry Hill guy, and I grew up over on Timberlake, and so that has crept into our storylines that we've written and published. And so we came up with this idea. Let's have a writing contest, and Leanne Long is over here, and unfortunately April Ritchie could not be with us, but they represent the Kenton County Library, and we sort of posed the idea to them. They thought it was a great idea. Let's have a writing contest. And wow, we actually got some sponsors who really coughed up some serious cash. So how about a little round of applause for Arling House Heating and Air Conditioning. You know, this isn't like, here's a $20 gift card to Starbucks. This is $1,000 of award money that they put up. So if you need any heating and air conditioning, you know who to call. So anyway, yeah, it all came together very nicely. We just want to thank anybody who supported us in setting up this contest. Its first year, we kind of knew that it was going to be small. I think we had about 15 students who participated from the beginning. And oddly enough, maybe not oddly enough, but we ended up with 3 submissions. And hey, that's perfect for a first, second, and third place. But I think what we found out, Leanne got some feedback from some of those folks who dropped out that, you know what, putting together your train of thought for 20 pages is kind of difficult. They may have gotten 5 pages in and realized, I don't know what else to say. So it is a challenge to be doing some creative writing, and we really hope that the students have learned something from that, even those who didn't reach the submission. Hopefully next year we will grow this a little bit, and we've got the support of Arling House again. I think I'm putting you on the hook here. This is going into the minutes, right? So hopefully we'll be able to do this again in the future and grow it every year and get a little more participation. So I believe our wonderful new mayor here is going to actually do the announcements, right? Or am I doing that? Daryl, how about you help me? You can do this. Angel, come on up here. You can do one, can't you?
All right, so we have 3.
Yeah, we'll do 3 of them.
That's your first place.
Okay.
Probably want to do that one last.
This is second or, okay, this is third. Okay. 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 We're going to do third second. Okay. Our third place winner, winning the amount of $200, is an 11th grader who is homeschooled by the name of Emily Jetter.
It'd really be great if we could get the contestants to read their submissions, but they're 20 pages.
Our second place winner for $300 is a 9th grader from St. Ursula's Academy, Bryn Connell. Lastly, our first place winner of the very first City of Erlanger Kenton County Public Library Writing Contest for $500, Rachel Petrie. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mike and Daryl. And Tyson, you are also on the judging committee, correct?
I was not.
Oh, you were not? Oh,
No.
okay. Very good. All right. Okay, so now we have the oath of office of a new firefighter and EMT. If Chief Whitaker could come up. There we go.
Good evening. I have not written a book. 32 years in the fire service, I could probably come up with a good one. But tonight we're here to celebrate the swearing in of Jordan Hines. Jordan, you hear a lot about family here in Erlanger. Well, this is true to form here. Jordan's father, John's the police officer with the city. So Jordan and I have something in common. My father was a police officer. So it just shows who the smarter ones in the family are. I'll let you decide who that is. Jordan started with the Crescent Springs Fire Authority in 2016. He became an intern at Edgewood Fire Department in January of 2018. He's a Boone County high school graduate who currently attends Gateway Community College seeking his paramedic degree. And talking about writing, somebody says he's a big Georgia football fan, but I know that's not true. I know that's not true. I just have to throw the Roll Tide out there when I can. He enjoys the outdoors, and he enjoys spending time with his family, as we all do. As I mentioned, his father is here tonight, his mother, Jennifer, his brother, Jonathan, Jonathan's wife, Rachel. Your little nephew, Eli, is here. And there's John Sr., John Hines' father, who was also a police officer. So you had a lot of influence there, and I'm glad you rose above that. So we're proud of you. Better be careful.
Break the train.
I asked John, Officer Hines, if he wanted to do the pinning tonight, and I thought that was a neat idea to kind of have that. And Dave, or Assistant Chief McQuarrie, had come up with that idea. And Jordan had said, no, he would like me to do the pinning, and I appreciate that. It's an honor. And you know, when I made chief here about 6 years ago, my father had passed. I didn't have that opportunity, so I thought it was something I wanted to offer. But I appreciate that honor. But your father is going to hold the Bible during the swearing-in ceremony. So right here it is.
Do you, Jordan Hines, solemnly swear to do your duty as a firefighter EMT for the city of Erlanger to the best of your ability, to serve your commanding officers with respect and dignity, to serve the citizens of the city of Erlanger with compassion, courage, and integrity, and to uphold the laws and constitutions of the United States of America, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and the city of Erlanger? So help you God. Thank you. Okay, now it's time for citizen and public comment. Mr. Hahn, you have anybody signed up tonight? Okay, nobody signed up. Did anybody forget to sign in? All right, we'll move on. Okay, we'll move on to the mayor's report. I'll try to make this brief, but I have a couple of things to talk about. I wanted to recap the work session that we had on January 22nd. I wanted to thank all the council members and the department heads that were available to be here. We were able to create 7 task forces at that meeting that tackle 7 very specific goals. I'll go over those real quick. A blight task force, Erlanger Commerce Center Connection Task Force, a Facility Study Task Force, a Heritage Day Task Force, a Senior Center Feasibility Task Force, a Small Business Tax Incentive Task Force, and a Stevenson Road Completion Task Force. So these task forces are going to meet on a regular basis. They're going to be a public meeting. But they will be more of like a work session environment, so very similar to what we did January 22nd. So if we do have a couple of spots that are open for citizens to participate in these workforces, so if anybody is interested, please let me know or let Jerry know as well. Tonight on the agenda, we also have a pension resolution. A couple of the cities around Kenton County are getting together to basically voice our opinion on the importance of continuing with the phase-in legislation that was passed last year. So as you know, the pension crisis is a huge issue that we've all been dealing with for for a very long time. Last year, pension phasing was passed, so where it's 12% increase on our city contribution, and it's capped at 10 years. So we need to make sure that that 12% cap remains the same. Prior to the legislation, we were going to see about a 50% increase. We don't need that. So we're passing this resolution to make sure that it stands firm, that we need the phase-in. And it also is calling for a 2-year study to assess the validity of separating CERS from the bigger pension system. So we'll be talking about that in a little bit. I also want to call out the Erlanger Business Council meeting will be for our monthly engagement and business advocacy session. It's going to be February 28th at 8:30 a.m. at the Kenton County Library. So please mark your calendars. This is going to be a really interesting one. Our featured speaker is going to be James Bureau. He's the Vice President of Global Supply Chain for Perfetti. He's going to discuss why they chose Erlanger to locate and future enhancements to his business. One other thing I will mention is the start of the Youth Leadership Academy of Erlanger. This is something that's going to be going out either today or possibly tomorrow. It's going to be a 10-week session for 6th graders that live in the city of Erlanger. And its mission is to engage youth and to facilitate increasing their activities in leadership and enhancing character values. So the Leadership Academy is going to meet Wednesdays after school from 3:30 to 5:30. It's 10 weeks. It's free to our Erlanger citizens, so please try to get the word out. The first session is going to start March 6th, and there's a parent informational meeting on February 12th at 7 o'clock here in the council chambers. And that is all I have. Now it's the reports of committees. The first is Public Safety. Mrs. Kyle?
Yes, I just have a few things to report on. First of all, we had our monthly Coffee with a Cop. That was held at the Erlanger McDonald's, and we had another good turnout. Excuse me. And there were lots of familiar faces, several new people, and we had several of our officers in attendance. And also, another important thing that's, I want to tell you that the next one coming up is at the Colonial Cottage, and that's Saturday, February 16th, and those are 9 to 11. Okay, the other thing I wanted to report on is the Citizens Police Academy. It's up and running. They've completed their 4th week of the 10-week course. Topics covered so far include an introduction to the police department, use of force, taser, police social worker duties, crisis intervention training, drug, accident, and criminal investigations. And they've also been able to take the FATS training, which is here until February 12th. That is in the next room. And what it is, they simulate different incidences that the police would have, like a bank robbery, hostage case, a traffic stop, etc. And if you're in the police academy, you could take your turn and you take cover and you actually have simulated weapon. And your heart will start pounding when you do this. But it's really very eye-opening. You see what these police officers go through. They have to make a split-second decision, and so anybody that's interested in seeing that, I would imagine they could come up and take a peek in there and look at that. But that's one of the highlights, I thought, of the police academy. And I do remember Officer Jewett at the time, where is he? He's not here any longer. When I did my shooting, he says, "All's well on Crestline. Mr. Kyle, if Mrs. Kyle says do the dishes, you best do the dishes." So I was highly praised by that fact. But just wanted to put a shout out there, and hopefully we'll have another one of these so that if you missed this one, you can tune in on the next one. That's all I wanted to report on. You do have the written report in your email, and the chief is in the house.
Thank you, Mrs. Kyle. All right, Public Safety, Fire, and EMS, Mr. Hermes.
All right, yes, Chief Whitaker sent out his report of operations yesterday on February 4th. It included a variety of highlights of the past month, including training, inspections, and community outreach. Most importantly, though, the department made 374 responses to emergency calls over the course of 1 month. If there are no questions from the mayor or council, chief is present. Anything to add? All right.
Okay, thank you. Public Works, Mr. Cahill, Mr. Skidmore.
Yes, the annual Christmas tree drop-off, that program was completed January the 11th. They recycled 114 trees. The street sweeping, they do it 4 times a year. They've completed their first round in January. Public Works was out on 12 different occasions doing snow and ice events since the weather has been bad.
So my favorite thing to talk about is the potholes. So the Public Works crew made several rounds through the entire city patching potholes. They also assisted the Kentucky Transportation Department with Commonwealth, Dixie, and Stevenson, so thank you for that. Sign reflectivity program. City crews have replaced all city-owned stop signs located throughout the city. This is a total of 525 stop signs that have been replaced. And Mr. Glenn is here.
Administration, Mrs. Skidmore and Mrs. Cahill.
General government offices will be closed Monday, February the 18th for President's Day, and there is only 4% of our city taxes left to be collected. Awesome job, Sherry and administration, for 4%. Great in February. And Renee?
The free ice skating party at the Northern Kentucky Ice Center. Free ice skating party at the Northern Kentucky Ice Center. That's out there on Erlanger Crescent Springs Road. It's 5:15 to 7:15 p.m. And you do need to make a reservation, right? Okay. And then just call the city building and do that. And Historical Society's next meeting is on February the 13th, 2019 at 7 p.m. And Sherry's, do you have anything to add?
All right, Finance and Business Development, Mrs. Pitts and Mrs. Reckers.
All council members and department heads should have received a copy of the fiscal year 2018 audit report. The complete audit report will be posted to the city's website. We are requesting a Finance Committee meeting for February 19th to have the auditors formally present the audit report. Each of the operating departments have submitted their budget request for the 2020 fiscal year. Staff is in the process of compiling all of the data along with the revenue projections. Over the next 2 weeks, meetings with representatives from each of the departments will be held to fine-tune the budget requests. When the meetings are completed, a preliminary budget draft will be prepared for review by the city council and mayor. Mr. Bodie?
Codes, Building and Zoning, Mr. Meyer.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess that was Tuesday, January the 29th, I attended the PDS had a preview of the blueprint for the Zoning 21st Century Initiative that would really revamp zoning across Kenton County. We have invited PDS to come and present to City Council on the committee meeting for March the 19th. At that point, we'll also start reviewing what that is and make a recommendation for how we adopt those zoning changes across the entire city to be in alignment with the rest of Kenton County. We did request the one change on the pet hotels and tattoo parlors so that we could have some additional discussion about that before moving forward. And that's all.
Okay, you've heard the reports of our committees. Do I entertain a motion that we adopt as presented? Mrs. Kyle, do I have a second? Mrs. Pitts? Any discussion?
I did have one thing I wanted to just mention. Last Monday here we had a meeting with the Board of Adjustments regarding the Girl Scouts of America. And I think it's notable that, that we should let people know that they are planning on making a headquarters here in Erlanger. Their regional headquarters is going to become on their existing site, which is off of, what is that, Riggs? Off Watson, thank you. Yeah, and so they're planning on making a full camp and storage facility and offices there on that site, which is pretty exciting. Thank you.
That's great news. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, now the reports of our representatives. Do we have any this evening? Mrs. Skidmore?
Kenton County Alliance has a report that there is no report because it was their annual meeting today, and I believe that was in Louisville maybe, or Frankfurt, not sure. I know it wasn't local, so I didn't go, no. I stayed home and cried because I didn't get to.
Okay, reports of city operations. City engineer? Mr. Glenn?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. That's a long way to walk to report that I have nothing to report on at this time. We do have Jim Viox and Michelle Bowman is here tonight if you have any questions for either one of them or I. We have been working, staff has been working on our 5-year infrastructure street plan lately, and so if you have any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I have nothing to report then. Thank you.
Okay, City Attorney, Mr. Gatlin.
Yeah, first on the text amendment issue, we'll go ahead and separate those. It was kind of odd. PDS combined them, and the report was kind of combined. But we'll go ahead and separate those. And just kind of as a reminder, and most people probably already know this, had this been a map amendment, we would have had to act within 60 days of January 10th. But because it's a text amendment, it does not become law until we pass the ordinance. So theoretically, we could take as long as we want. We're not under any time frame on this issue. Other thing, I just want to echo something that Mr. Meyer said relating to the Z21. This is a pretty exciting period of time. I mean, if you like planning and zoning, this is the most significant planning and zoning update, at least in my professional lifetime and in most of our professional lifetimes. And we're going to have a zoning code here in Kenton County, and specifically Erlanger and the other jurisdictions that have signed on to this, which will be absolutely 21st century cutting edge. Again, I'm not trying to steal Mr. Meyer's thunder. I just want to kind of pile on. It's really, really important over the next 3, 4, 5 months. And the process for this body will begin in about 4 to 6 weeks, that everyone kind of weighs in their input, because this is a completely comprehensive overhaul. And you know, these kind of things you might only do once every 20 to 30 years. So I think it's pretty exciting, and this is going to be a very, very active part of, I think, Mr. Hahn and people who are involved in the committee like Mr. Meyer and staff's time, and hopefully council gets involved as well. So if you have any questions on that, talk to either Gary or myself. So you are the representative?
I guess so.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, City Administrator, Mr. Kramer.
Thank you. Those of you that have been on Commonwealth for the school zone, the signs are up. Looks like they have power to them. I'm still waiting on a follow-up from the state to see when they're going to be lit up. But hopefully by next month we'll be able to give out at least something up if they're not functioning at that time. The only additional thing I have, and I apologize, I meant to send this out to council ahead of time. I don't like to spring big changes ahead of time, so hopefully I don't take too much heat. But this is an idea that we've kind of been working on the last week about the budget meetings that are coming up here next week and the following. Historically, we've had council in with that, along with the mayor, along with the department heads, and I'd like to change that up a little bit if council is willing. with developing the draft budget is an executive function. So what I would propose is that our first meeting, the first round of meetings, is just done with the department heads, myself and the mayor, and of course finance, to develop a draft proposal that we'd like to present to council. I know I canceled the normal March meeting on that Saturday, and we had a couple different ideas going along with that, but I still think we can keep that canceled and maintain just our 2 meetings a month like normal. So once the department heads have met and the mayor approves that, the plan is a week before the committee meeting in March that Mr. Bodie will send out the draft budget to all council, so they have a good week to review it, to ask any questions ahead of time, so it's not being sprung on you. During the committee meeting on March, Steve Bodie and myself will present the draft budget, explain just a quick overview of the differences from last year compared to this year, or maybe even more historic if we need to. And at that point, if there's any big issues that we want to discuss, we can table the bigger issues to April, have some one-on-one conversations during the month, and then we can bring it up again in April. I think that's going to be a lot more efficient, especially for the staff and hopefully for council, so they don't have to try to make the early morning meetings. And that'll still allow us for May to have first reading and then June to have second reading. I know it's a little bit different than we've been used to. We do have some, public meeting requirements that we've been kind of talking about the way we used to do it. Not that we're trying to get away from that, but I think it would be a better work session with just focusing on the council, or focus on the department heads with the mayor. This had no way says that the committees can't talk to the department heads, because I know some of them are already talking and discussing it ahead of time, so we encourage that. But the actual getting down to the budget and preparing it, I think it would be really good to have a little bit of a change this year. So I'm open to any comments anybody has for that. And again, I do apologize not giving everybody a heads up on it.
Matt, I just think, I guess from what you're talking about, I think that, to me, that makes sense to let, the department heads kind of hammer her out and before, council gets involved in looking at things. I mean, I think, trying to invite too many people into those sessions makes for a potentially an unproductive meeting. And I know there's a lot to get through in a short period of time. So, I mean, I appreciate, taking that direction.
Okay, thank you.
For these meetings, though, I'm sure the presentation will come out. Will there be some notes and things that we can talk to the department heads about after the initial meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
So when we do the week out, when we present, we're not going to just email the budget to you. Steve, my plan is that we'll do a cover letter, just kind of real high level between departments to give you a little bit more. But then, after that, obviously you have the ability to meet with Peter or, whatever the department head is to kind of talk more in depth about it. And it's not a final thing, obviously, because the council has to vote on it. But I think that'll, hopefully it'll prepare a little bit smoother draft that we can work from on that.
Okay.
And I'm open to any other suggestions if you want to throw anything else in. Yes, Vicki?
I just have a question. I'm kind of confused. Are we still having the annual budget meeting in March?
No. So
No.
we've had a couple concerns with that. One, we've had a very long, I think last year we did much better, just more of a review. But that's also really short for Steve to consolidate all those budget meetings and hurry up that first weekend. This gives him an extra week and a half to really make sure all the numbers work, the revenues work with the expenses. So it does give him a little bit more time. I mean, being around him beginning of March is usually not pleasant. So this will kind of spread that out a little bit. And I think we'll get a better product the first time than we have historically.
Yeah, I remember last year, poor Steve stayed up all night. When we
Yeah.
came in, it was like, I've been up all night.
Right, yeah.
Okay, I got you.
So, yes.
So no, in administration, it's just going to be department heads, you, the mayor, and Steve, correct? No council. So fire department, no council, police, no council?
For the
Just-
initial budget meetings,
Okay,
correct.
all right, okay.
Right,
That's,
yeah.
okay.
We'll still have general government will still have their budget meeting. And, you feel free to talk to Sherry ahead of time on that. But yeah, during the actual developing the draft budget, we prefer just to have the staff and then the mayor.
That's right.
If that's
Too
all right
many
with everybody.
Indians, yeah, yeah, whatever, okay.
Any other questions? All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Matt. You've heard the reports of our representatives in city operations. Do I entertain a motion that we adopt as presented? Mrs. Kyle? Do I have a second? Mrs. Reckers? All in favor, say aye. Motion carried. Oh, opposed? Sorry. Motion carried. Okay, correspondence. Mrs. Hoffman? Okay. Now bids. Mr. Glenn? If you'd like to discuss the Center Street resurfacing project, please.
Okay, thank you. Everybody has a copy of Mr. Jim Viox's bid recommendations and bid tabulation sheets. So the city of Erlanger took bids this past Monday for improvements to Brightleaf from Turkey Foot up through the intersection of Narrows, Atlas, and Center Street. And the three bidders, bear with me, are on the final sheet of the bid tabulation sheet. So we had a high bidder of Wriggler Blacktop at just over $455,000. Paul Michaels and Sons was the middle bidder at $371,000, and JPS Construction was the low bidder at $325,000, just over $325,000. So going back to the front page of this sheet, you have the low bidder at $325,419.20. You add on anticipated extra work contingency of $30,000, and then engineering for a total estimate cost of $396,961.12, which is a considerable savings over the budgeted amount that was presented back in January of 18. So it is a recommendation of Mr. Viox that we take the low bidder of JPS Construction, and Public Works concurs. Any questions? Yes.
Will we be adding another project in with the money that was saved from the estimate?
Yes, sir. So, yeah, so we don't know what that is just yet because we just got these bids in this week, but that's what we've been doing is moving projects from last year up into this year as money provides. So we'll reevaluate where we stand and see if we can't get something else.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
I got just a question on the Brightleaf and Atlas. Those are just resurfacings versus replacements? Is that a temporary thing, or?
Say that one more time.
I'm looking at Brightleaf and Atlas as a resurface versus a replacement.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And is there, I was thinking that, some of the direction was kind of changing and doing full replacements. I know I've seen that off of Concord on Beta.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we have multiple repair strategies from full replacement to just simple mill and overlays to just overlay. So, so that's what we kind of picked for Brightleaf would just be, we have some curb depressions that we're going to remove, some sidewalk connections that we're going to make whole, and then we're just going to mill and overlay the street because that's all that's necessary, and include the intersection of Narrows.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion? Mrs. Kyle and Mr. Hermes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Okay, does anybody have any old business to discuss? Okay, does anybody have any new business? Mr. Cahill.
Yes, so the first meeting of the Master Facilities Task Force was today. We do have some recommendations going forward to council, and we'd like to make sure that we get that on our committee meeting. in February. Okay.
Mayor, I have, I think, Tom, if you're done? Okay. 2 items that I'd like to add to discuss. I know we're getting ready to talk about the budgets, and there's a couple of things that I think people have talked about, over the past several months. One of them was the insurance premium tax. And maybe it's not the right time to do it, but I know there's some specific timing on that, and I think by mid-March, late March, that would need to be submitted to the insurance commissioner. So I'm asking if we could discuss that at the February 19th meeting, decide if that's something we tackle this year, or just kind of hold off to a future year. And then the other piece, I know with the, now that we no longer have 911 dispatch, we still have the 3% Duke Energy franchise that's being charged, and that was originally for that, but now that the residents are all paying the $75 or $85 in their tax bills, I'd like to discuss also repealing that Duke Energy franchise fee as well. I know there's a lot kind of getting booked into that meeting, but with budget planning, I think if we're going to do anything about it, let's make sure that we can work it into those budgets.
Okay, we'll go ahead and add that, those 3. So the master's facility study recommendations, the insurance premium tax conversation, and the franchise fee conversation to the February committee meeting. Okay, anybody else? Okay, we'll move on to legislation.
All right, first we have a municipal order as it relates to surplus property. This is a municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, making the written determinations required by KRS 82083 for the sale or other disposition of property owned by the city. As indicated in this Google Docs sheet, there are 3 items that are being disposed of: a Lawn Boy snowblower, a 2012 Sutphen pumper, and a 1990 fire truck. And the disposal method is indicated there in the Google sheet.
Do I entertain a motion to adopt this municipal order as read? Mrs. Reckers? Mrs. Kyle? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Next, we have a resolution of the City of Erlanger, and I apologize, but it is before 8 o'clock. I'm actually going to read this in full because I think it's important. Whereas stability of the county employees' retirement system, CERS, is a critical priority for all local governments, special purpose government entities, and taxpayers in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and whereas the City of Erlanger has experienced significant increases in pension expenditures each year since 2015, and whereas the City of Erlanger has discussed their concerns with local legislators and explained the negative impacts that these substantial increases in actuarially required contributions will have on Erlanger, and whereas Erlanger City Council requests respectfully that any increases in the required contributions assessed to CERS participants be phased in over a 10-year period, and whereas Erlanger City Council requests respectfully that any increases in the actuarially required contributions assessed to participants in CERS be capped at 12% annually during the 10-year phase-in period, and whereas Erlanger City Council requests respectfully that a CERS experience study be completed after the 1-year implementation period of a new pension plan is passed, and whereas Erlanger City Council respectfully requests that the Kentucky Retirement Systems Board be restructured to allow for weighted voting, allowing members appointed to represent local governments and SPGEs, which are the special purpose government entities, greater control and decision-making related to CERS until a separation study is complete. Whereas Erlanger City Council requests respectfully that the General Assembly commission a 2-year study to assess the validity of separating CERS from the KERS to ensure the system remains free of political influence regardless of future administrations. And whereas the Erlanger City Council requests respectfully that the Kentucky General Assembly take decisive action during the 2019 session to address the pension crisis. Now therefore be it resolved that the Erlanger City Council urges the Kentucky General Assembly to make identifying and resolving Kentucky's pension crisis a top priority during the 2019 General Assembly session.
Do I entertain a motion to adopt this resolution as read? Okay, Mr. Meyer. Do I have a second? Mrs. Pitts. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Do I entertain a motion to adjourn? Mrs. Kyle, do I have a second? Mrs. Reckers, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Motion carried.